Hello everybody, it's AJ here with the Mighty Glue Stick, and it's time to dip into the mailbag, something I haven't done on my channel before, but I occasionally get really good interactions with viewers. This comes from Kurt Turfloth. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. So Kurt writes, "Hey AJ, this is a bit of an advanced GMing question, possible video. I love running and playing in D&D games that emphasize specific strong themes and the interesting settings." So he's got examples of Ravenloft, Dark Sun, Cthulhu, etc. "But find myself frustrated when players act in a way that is not conducive to the mood of the setting." So this is players who aren't taking it seriously per se. "Aside from a very strong session zero, which is where before you actually start playing the game, you sit down and write up your characters and come up with reasons why the characters know each other and talk about the setting and what players expect and want and set social boundaries. Handing out role-playing resources that aren't daunting and supportive reminders, how would you keep your players immersed in the setting during a game? Would you consider giving out inspiration and hero points for maintaining the theme, as in rewarding good role-playing? Would you give out other rewards? What about cinematic framing of scenes to keep focus? A big part of keeping the on-theme issues is the gobolo nerdarchy problem. Some players love to vent and be jackasses, and this can be incredibly entertaining. However, jackassery in horror, intrigue, dramatic, or brutal survival-themed games just doesn't work out well, as it disrupts the GM and the player's efforts. Punishing a jackass and being a hard ass has its problems too. How do you handle it as a player or as a GM? Do you go to the group consensus, or what if you are the jackass? We all are sometimes, and what would help rein you in?" Okay, well, speaking from my own perspective, because at play in games I am a mixture of what you would call a real role player, so I love playing in character and thinking and acting according to that character's motives. And that has resulted in me being a jackass, because I remember one particular session that everybody was going through a portal of evil, and my character flatly refused and said, "No, I will not go through a portal of evil," because it was very, very counter to what that character would do. It ran up against his morals and ethics and things. And it resulted in a situation where the DM was basically saying, "Well, look, you're going to split the party." And all the other players at the table were going, "Hey, look, man, look, we've got to do this. We've got to go through this thing." And I'm like, "Well, no." This is where my character would draw the line and say no. So in that particular instance, that was unfair to me and my role-playing style. So you could say it was a failure of me because I wasn't going to compromise, and it was a failure for the DM because he wasn't paying attention to what my character would do in that situation, and there was no alternatives. And in the end, there was a way around it. But yeah, it caused a bone of contention at the time. Other times I will do things I will be an instigator. And an instigator is what you would refer to as the jackass who's incredibly entertaining. So an instigator is a person who finds ways to stimulate adventure and excitement and drama in a scene. And these are the guys that will open a door just to see what's on the other side. They will deliberately trigger a trap. They will do something that will get a combat going. They will go off on their own to investigate something because they're bored. They like chaos in the game. They like being the seat of the pants action. And there's nothing wrong with that, because a lot of the best instances of the game is where things break down and get chaotic. And it can be difficult and frustrating for a DM when you're trying to go in a way which is counter to that sort of that kind of motivation. So they're looking for a certain type of entertainment, and if you're not in tune with that, then yeah. Basically it all comes down to agreement. And the best situations, the best ways that have dealt with me being an instigator or a real role player or a jackass is where I've agreed with the way the direction of the story is going, and I'm taking things seriously because I want to see what the outcome is, and I'm on board with everybody else. We have a goal and we're all working towards it. It's that feeling of inclusion. And yeah, what you want to avoid is situations where one player is criticizing another player's playstyle or what they're doing, because that's not their job. That's yours, really. In fact, in the last gaming session that I had as DM, I had to point out to one of the players at the table that his character would not pull aside the priest of the party and criticize him for his stupidity, because that is completely counter to what those two player characters would do. His player character is a big brusque dragonborn, and not particularly wise. The cleric has a wisdom of something like 18 or 20 or something, so he's actually the leader of the group. And the dragonborn is quite often in a situation, from my perspective as DM, where from the dragonborn's perspective, that cleric character goes off and does strange things all the time, and he often doesn't understand his motivations. The player does, but the character doesn't, and things always seem to work out fine. Also, there's a lot of direction from divination spells and things where that cleric's god is definitely doing things which are odd, and they've gone along with it, and things will work out fine. So in that particular instance, the player was frustrated and acted in character, and then I pulled him up as a DM and said, no, I don't want to stifle your creativity here, but your character would not do that, and it's unfair of you to pull that shit in the game, because that's not what it's about. So check yourself, man, check yourself. Anyway, so that's that. As for theme and setting and things like that, you'll hear me sometimes referring to short story, describing things the way a short story does. In a short story, you have a limited amount of words, so it's not a long novel, so you can't go into great descriptive detail. What you do is you take broad brushstrokes, and by broad brushstrokes, I mean like a hieroglyph. You're not painting a detailed picture, you're just picking the key elements. So you could say, it's an old man, he's got a big bushy beard and a corn pipe, and squints at you through one eye. And that's all I need to say, and you've got a pretty complete picture of what this guy looks like. Now, you've just, in your head, given him maybe a hat or an old coat or something like that, or whatever, and your brain is starting to fill in the setting of where this guy is. Is he in front of an old house or something? Has he just gotten out of a car? You don't know. But the physical description can be basic. So you could say, yeah, he's a big dude with stubble, and he's carrying a mallet, and he's sweating because he's been at work in the circus all day. And you're like, okay, that's all you need to say. So broad brushstrokes of what this NPC is. And then you can carry it with the way that the character talks. So it's my job as DM to give this guy a voice. I've been working at the circus all day. And so, you don't need to know what the guy's instat is. You can listen to the way he talks, and it confers a lot about his charisma and intelligence and things. And it's part of your job to look at the way a monster listing is and depict those numbers as a living thing in the game. And when it comes to the setting, such as, I think one of the best would be Planescape and the City of Sigil, and the way that they have a specific slang way that they talk. And it's really quite difficult to master. But once you do, and you carry along the players with you, it's amazing how immersive it is, just giving them specific words that are appropriate to that setting. And I have a favourite story of one of my campaigns where, outside of the game, everybody started using the word Haktis, which is the lizard man word for it's a forbidden area or bad. So yeah, even now, if I said you don't go in there, it's Haktis, they would know exactly what I'm talking about. And that's one of the great things about role-playing games in general. But it's completely make-believe word, and it really immersed them in the situation when they were forced to learn a little bit of lizard man talk, because they were interacting with these things so often that they started to pick up some of their culture, and it was hilarious and great. Also, my players have a great fondness for goblin barmaids as a result of that game as well. In fact, there's one of the NPCs called Crandy, who is this she was a great character. And they only ever interacted with her briefly for short periods of time, but they just loved the fact that she was in your face and a mercenary. And she ended up pretty much running a bar that they owned, kind of by accident, and turned it into Oh, it was incredibly disruptive to the entire city in the end. But yeah, the whole situation was great because there was like this great big D&D quest going on, but in the background there was a city story. They had a place, they had a home base, and they set in a series of emotional events um, where lots of things were happening at the same time, and one sort of blended in with the other, and at times it sort of crested like a wave where they had a disaster happening at their bar. They had hordes of undead. They had some sort of viral fungus outbreak, and the lizard folk in the jungle next door were really upset. And the Mages Guild were upset at them because they were selling addictive onion dip in their bar, and it was causing disruptions with the students at the Mages Academy who were supposed to be sitting their final exams. And it all, yeah, and in the meantime, it was just crazy. It was crazy. Interdimensional mayhem, as only my games can have. And so, yeah, broad brushstrokes, and then a culmination of things. And I recommend keeping notes on NPC names and things like that, and rewarding players for remembering things and writing stuff down. Not only because it immerses them and gets them interested in who the characters are around them, and gives them a sense of accomplishment when they remember complicated stuff. It's like, oh yeah, that's Falun Gong, the sheriff that we first met in that first town. He owes me 10 gold. It's like, oh yeah, that's right, he does. So yeah, he definitely lets you into the city because, he still owes you 10 gold. That sort of thing. And you can really build up the setting by making specific things. So in Ravenloft, there may be particular gypsies that you're interacting with, and you get to know their family, and they can give you resources later on, or ways into or out of a place that only they know about, or particular information on what the weaknesses of a vampire are, some folklore, or yeah, that sort of thing. They can give you really great background information and stuff. And never underestimate the power of one of the Taroka card packs. I've got one of those. It's the best $18 I've ever spent. I use that Taroka card deck whenever I'm doing a divination spell for the player, and it always results in absolutely awesome events in the game. I could do a video on that alone. So Ravenloft is dark and moody, and it's got a sort of the Fearless Vampire Hunters feel to it. So peasants, villagers, the evil eye, the curse, ooh, all that sort of stuff, and a bit of violin music and in the background. Dark Sun it's harsh, it's a survivalist game, it's a stark dystopian world where magic has torn everything apart, and the world is dying. I mean, it's grim and gritty, and it's resource poor as a central theme. So it's got a Conan-esque feel to it, where you've got sorcerer kings in their mountains of power and their dark cities, and every city you come across is a new problem. It's a new overlord. It's an entirely different set of weird rules that this tyrant has inflicted upon the population, and you're an outsider, and you need resources to survive. You need a way in. You need to get allies. You need to infiltrate, get into the Thieves Guild, get a bit of graft, a bit of black market, and at the same time deal with horrors from the past, the future, mage-bred terrors, monstrous creatures from the desert's sands, Thrycreen tribes who are hunting you for honor and sport. Yeah, it's a great setting, and it really sells itself if you get into the idea of I'm a character whose survival is everything, and it all boils down to, look, if you're useless to me, if you don't give me what I need, I'll leave you behind I'll leave you in the sun, and it's great like that. Also, it's weird because there's very little metal and things like that, so you have stone swords and bone implements and things, and alchemically treated resin-bound wood and things. Cthulhu is a setting where it's great to play a normal person who comes across extraordinary things, and they have no idea how to deal with it. I've only played Cthulhu in one little mini campaign, well, kind of two, but I found it absolutely fantastic, and the sense of hopelessness that you have at the end of it, of, oh god, I can't stop, but it's going to be my doom, but I can't stop. I need to know. The investigation, in spite of the fact that you know that it's going to lead to your character's doom, is great, and it's both scary and immersive, and yet you can look at it, you can step back and laugh at it at the same time, at how you're getting jump scares at stuff that you knew was coming anyway. So it's great for giving you the heebie-jeebies, because it's part of the DM's job to not explain things to you. He just describes what's going on. So your character is this Victorian era or modern era investigator who has stumbled across something which is unusual and exciting. I mean, it's a real supernatural thing. And you can't help but want to know more, want to confirm it, want to prove that this exists. And so you follow the trail, you follow the lead, and you become drawn to dark characters and strange events and things that people don't want to talk about. And quite often you stumble across people who are mad, who've been driven insane by this. One of the best jump scares I had was I was visiting basically a psych ward, where there was this catatonic person in a bed who we were trying to get information about them, or where they were from, or if possible get some information from them. And we start talking about the stuff, and we mention a key word which sets them off, and the DM sits bolt upright at the edge of the table and goes, "Run!" and screams out this answer, which freaked us out, because he had been basically just completely quiet for a good 5 or 10 minutes, and then just yelled at us. And yeah, it really gave me the heebie-jeebies. That was great, and I'll always remember that. That was a real good takeaway experience. And then, of course, being confronted with the supernatural thing at the end is always just fantastic, because it's hopeless. You have no idea what the weakness of this creature is. It's nothing you've ever seen before. It's like nothing out of any D&D game that you've ever played, and it's inexorable and invariably fatal. So yeah, lots of different settings. Forgotten Realms is great because it has a huge variety, and there's a huge amount of resources that you can draw upon to bring it to life. If you want to get into the social aspect, or trade, or politics, it's a great setting for that. And if you want a good kick down the door and loot the temple sort of setting, it's good for that too. Eberron, even more politics. You've got strange techno-magical devices and things going on. You've got the remnants of a huge global conflict, feuding houses with great trade and influence, and you can really get immersed into the conflicts of that setting, and the great opportunities that come from the fact that everything's being disrupted and civilization is picking itself back up again. But there's always that tension that the war could kick off again for any reason. So yeah, it's great even just to read that setting. And yeah, same sort of thing with any sort of scenario that you are deciding to play for your run for your group. Get to know it, get the feel for it, and understand what the whole point of it is, what sort of feel it's looking for, whether it's the joy of discovering an ancient tomb and the horrors in it, or whether it's fun and games and slapstick and weird creatures that are going to leave the characters running around, screaming and laughing, or sort of antics, horror antics. There were a lot of older games like that. I mean, Ravenloft has got a lot of horror antics to it as well. It can be quite a slapstick sort of a setting, but also grim and gritty and a lot of death and killing. But that can be fun too. And yeah, you'll find things that your group generally likes. And as the more you play, the more you understand what they are looking for in a game, and your group will start to gel. You'll get to understand what sets people off, what they do when they get bored, or what they do when they've got a lot of energy, or how they deal with frustration. And never lose sight of the fact that these people are your friends, and they're basically just there playing a game, an activity. I mean, you wouldn't get this worked up about a game of Monopoly, and if you do, you've probably got deeper problems. So yeah, I see a lot of conversations online about people dealing with problem players. Well, it's just a relationship problem. It's just a problem that you're having with your friend, and a game should never be a reason to end a friendship, unless you've got deeper problems. In which case, no amount of DMing knowledge is going to fix a broken friendship. Yeah, it was pretty much doomed from the beginning. So that's my theory on it. There's problems that you can have at the table, but for the most part, it's either because you're dealing with it wrong or you're not compromising. And sometimes the best thing to do is just swallow your pride and ask questions, and get honest with the answers. You know, it could well be your problem. It could be your fault, or it could be an underlying problem between two people at the table that have got nothing to do with the game. So, yeah. So, good question, Kurt. I hope you don't mind my rambling answer. But there you go. So, I suggest that you get to know your players well, get to know the setting well, give them broad brushstroke descriptive stuff. It largely comes down to the way that the characters and NPCs interact. Get the players needing to learn about the setting, and that really cements it. Getting them to understand stuff that is specific to that setting, that will get them stuff in the game. And if they don't pay attention and don't learn, then it's going to be extremely frustrating and occasionally will stop them dead. But never have the game stop on something that the player's character would not do. So never have it hinge completely on the character acting contrary to their nature, because that's unfair to them. And otherwise, just, yeah, as you say, reward them for good role-playing. And when you find that your players are really enjoying something, add more of it. You know, you can never have too much spice in that particular stew. And yeah, it always makes for a good time. And even if you do have a particularly serious setting, always leave room for fun, because role-playing games are a lot about escapism and blowing off steam, and nobody can be 100% serious all of the time. There's always going to be a little bit of slapstick, even if it's like a grim World War II drama that you're playing out. There's still going to be the joking with the sergeant, or a good gripe session amongst the grunts. There's always something like that, or situations where there's mechanical errors that end up just being funny. Even if you're trying to aim a howitzer or something, and you've got a whip and it gets jammed or something, or you get it bogged down, and you have to come up with inventive ways to fix the situation. That can be funny too. I mean, my step granddad had some pretty grim experiences in World War II, but he also had some great funny stories about stuff that he experienced, particularly with Bedouin out in the desert, that I always greatly valued. So yeah, there you go. Just a rambling talk about stuff. If you have any other questions and things that are worthy of a video, always welcome any comments on my channel. It doesn't have to be on a video. It can actually, there's a discussion section, a discussion tab on my YouTube channel. And I definitely welcome any commentary there, and I always respond to anything you guys say. So thanks for listening, everybody, and I'll be up with another Monster Ecology video very soon.